December 16th, 1944. Before dawn, the Ardennes forest lies frozen and silent. Snow clings to the pine branches, muffling sound, hiding movement. In this darkness, Nazi Germany launches its last great gamble. The plan is simple and ruthless. Punch through the thinly held American lines, seize the Meuse River, split the Allied armies in half, and force a negotiated peace in the West. Adolf Hitler calls it Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein. Few believe it can work, but one man is tasked with driving it forward. Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper, Waffen-SS, 39 years old, aggressive, fast, trusted. He commands the spearhead of the 1st SS Panzer Division, Leibstandard Adolf Hitler. His mission is speed above all else. Bypass resistance. Ignore flanks. Take fuel wherever it can be found. Reach the Meuse in days. At 5:30, the German artillery opens fire. Shells rip into the American positions of the 99th Infantry Division. Many U.S. soldiers are new. Some have never heard a gun fired in anger. As the barrage lifts, German infantry move forward through the fog, followed by armor. Panthers and Panzer IVs grind through forest roads thought impassable in winter. Peiper begins his advance near Tondorf. His column is long, heavy, and powerful King Tigers at the front, half-tracks packed with grenadiers behind. Radio orders are clear, no delays. The plan depends on momentum. Every hour lost weakens the offensive. American resistance appears faster than expected. Roadblocks, blown bridges, isolated units refusing to retreat. Peiper orders them bypassed where possible. Ammunition is conserved. Fuel is already tight. The offensive assumes captured Allied fuel dumps will solve everything. They must be found. By midday, Peiper reaches the Losheim Gap. The breakthrough is real. The American line is bending. Reports flow back to German headquarters. Progress is being made. Hitler's impossible plan for a moment seems alive, but the roads are narrower than the maps suggest. Traffic jams form behind Peiper's column. Tanks idle. Engines burn fuel, even when standing still. Above, the weather holds low clouds grounding Allied aircraft. This is the narrow window the Germans need. On December 17th, Peiper pushes west toward Stavelot and the Amblève River. The town must fall intact. The bridge must be captured before the Americans can destroy it. Without it, the entire timetable collapses. American engineers are already moving. Demolition charges are prepared. Infantry dig in along the approaches. Peiper accelerates, ignoring reports of resistance behind him. His column stretches dangerously thin. As dusk falls, tracer fire flashes ahead. The road descends toward Stavelot. The bridge is somewhere beyond the smoke and trees. Peiper's lead tanks roll forward, engines roaring, unaware of how little time remains. The bridge is still standing, but only just. American engineers wait with detonators. In hand is the sound of German. Engines grows louder by the second. Peiper's lead elements burst from the tree line at Stavelot in the early afternoon of December 17th. Infantry. Fire cracks across the road. An American roadblock collapses under tank fire, but the delay is fatal. At 15 o'clock, with German armor less than a kilometer away, the engineers trigger the charges. The bridge over the Amblève erupts in smoke and flame, collapsing into the freezing river below. Piper arrives minutes too late. The timetable is already breaking. Without the bridge, his heavy armor cannot cross. Fuel continues to bleed away. Engines idle as officers argue. Piper makes a decision controversial, risky. He orders his column north toward Trois-Ponts, where another bridge may still be intact. The roads tighten. Snow turns to slush under steel tracks. American resistance stiffens as units realize this is no raid, but a full-scale offensive. Small groups of U.S. infantry delay the column for hours at a time. Each firefight costs fuel the Germans do not have. By nightfall, Piper reaches La Gleize. His forces are now deep behind American lines, farther west than any other German unit. On maps in Berlin, his spearhead represents hope. In reality, it is becoming a trap. December 18th. The weather begins to change. Clouds lift. Allied aircraft appear overhead for the first time. Fighter-bombers dive on roads clogged with German vehicles. Half-tracks burn. Fuel trucks explode. Piper's column scatters into forests during daylight, moving only at night. Attempts to reach Trois-Ponts fail. Bridges are blown again always minutes before capture. Each explosion echoes through the Ardennes like a door slamming shut. The plan relies on speed. Speed is gone. American counterattacks begin to form around Piper's corridor. The U.S. 30th Infantry Division pushes south. The 82nd Airborne moves into blocking positions. Roads behind Piper are cut. His route back east narrows to a single frozen track under constant air attack. Fuel now dictates everything. Tanks are abandoned where they stall. Crews destroy their own vehicles with grenades. King Tiger's machines that symbolize German power are left immobile, silent in the snow. Piper radios headquarters repeatedly. He reports progress, but also shortages. Relief forces are promised, but they cannot break through fast enough. American artillery begins to range La Gleize. Shells fall day and night. By December 20th, Piper's battle group is surrounded. German soldiers dig foxholes between wrecked vehicles. Ammunition is counted carefully. Wounded men lie in barns and cellars. The Meuse River is still more than 50 kilometers away and now unreachable. Piper gathers his officers. He knows the truth. The plan that nearly worked has failed here in this frozen valley. The only question left is how many men will escape before the circle closes completely. The circle tightens while Piper calculates what still moves and what no longer can. The order is quiet, almost resigned. Heavy equipment will be destroyed. Wounded who cannot walk will be left with medics and white flags. There is no breakout by armor, only by foot. On the night of December 23rd, under falling snow and no moon, Piper prepares his men for escape. Explosions tear through La Gleize as demolition charges are set. Panthers and king tigers erupt in flame, their silhouettes briefly lighting the valley. These machines will not reach the Meuse. They will not reach anywhere. Piper divides his column into small groups, each told to move east through the woods. Avoid roads, avoid contact. Speed is replaced by silence. American artillery searches the village. Shells walk across fields and into forests, bursting among trees. Use infantry tighten blocking positions, listening for movement. trip flares are placed along likely paths. The Ardennes, once cover, is now a maze of traps. Shortly after midnight, the first groups slip out. Snow muffles footsteps. Rifles are taped to prevent metal clatter. A single shot could bring illumination rounds and machine gun fire. Men stumble in the dark, guiding themselves by compass bearings and whispered counts. Contact comes anyway. Near the Amblay Valley, an American outpost opens fire. Tracers slash through trees. German groups scatter, drop prone, crawl. Some make it past. Others do not. There is no way to help the wounded. Orders are to keep moving. By dawn on December 24th, survivors hide in forest hollows. Frostbite sets in. Ammunition is low. Food is gone. Overhead, Allied aircraft circle freely, the weather fully turned against Germany. The offensive elsewhere has stalled. Piper's breakout is now a series of individual escapes. Piper himself moves with a small group. He avoids roads, skirts villages, crosses streams in silence. Messages do not get through. The battle group no longer exists as a formation. It exists only as men trying to survive. American forces enter La Glaise later that morning. They find burned armor, abandoned equipment, dead and wounded left behind. The threat has passed. The spearhead of Hitler's last gamble lies wrecked in the snow. East of the encirclement, German lines are still holding, but just barely. The Meuse is never reached. The Allied armies are not split. The plan that depended on perfect timing has failed by minutes, by fuel shortages, by resistance that refused to collapse. Piper reaches German-held territory days later with a fraction of his command. The cost is immense. Experienced troops are gone. Armor is gone. The Western Front will never recover this strength. Winter continues. The Ardennes offensive grinds to a halt. And as the front stabilizes, another reckoning begins, one that will follow. Joachim Piper, long after the snow melts, and long after the war itself moves toward its end. The forest thins as the survivors drift back into German lines, each man arriving alone or in pairs, hollow-eyed and silent. What returns of Piper's battle group is no longer a spearhead, only fragments. Officers try to count names. The lists do not match. Too many are missing. Too many machines are gone forever. The Ardennes offensive continues without them, but its momentum is broken. American forces regain the initiative, tightening pressure across the Bulge. Roads once meant for German armor now carry U.S. columns moving east. Piper is reassigned, his role reduced. The trust once placed in speed and shock is replaced by defense and delay. Behind the lines, reports begin to circulate. At crossroads and frozen fields passed days earlier, American bodies are found. Prisoners shot. Civilians killed. The locations trace a line that follows Piper's route west. At first, the information moves slowly. War leaves little time for investigation. But by January, the names of places are fixed in memory. Bognes, Malmedy. American commanders demand answers. Statements are taken from survivors. Maps are marked. The story hardens into accusation. Piper's name appears again and again, tied to the unit, to the time, to the ground where the bodies lie in the snow. The fighting rolls on. February, March, Germany is collapsing from all sides now. Piper commands smaller units, retreats under pressure. destroys bridges, delays the inevitable. There is no fuel for bold movement, no room for plans that nearly work. In April 1945, American forces cross into Germany. Town after town falls with little resistance. The war that demanded speed now ends in exhaustion. Piper moves south, then west, then nowhere at all. On May 10th, near Lake Tegernsee, he is captured by U.S. troops. There is no dramatic fight, no final stand. Just an officer stepping forward, pistol holstered, war over. But surrender does not end the story. Piper is separated from other prisoners. He is questioned. Names are spoken aloud in bare rooms. Witnesses testify. Evidence accumulates. The Normandy Massacre investigation becomes one of the most serious war crimes inquiries. On the Western Front, in 1946, at Dachau, Piper stands trial with other members of his unit. The charges are precise: dates, times, orders. He denies giving illegal commands. The court listens. Survivors speak. The record grows heavier with every day of testimony. The verdict will come later. Appeals will follow. Sentences will change. History will argue over responsibility for decades. But in this moment between battlefield and judgment, Piper waits, his fate no longer decided by speed, fuel, or weather, but by what can be proven about those frozen days in December 1944. And as the courtroom doors close, the question remains unresolved in the silence. How close did the plan come to working, and what did it cost to try? The verdict comes down hard. In July 1946, the tribunal sentences Joachim Piper to death. Around him, other members of Kampfgruppe Piper receive long prison terms. The judgment is swift, final in tone. For the Americans, it is closure for Normandy. For Germany, it is another sign that the war's reckoning will not be escaped. But the case does not end in the courtroom. Almost immediately, questions are raised about the investigation itself. Allegations surface: coercive interrogations, forced confessions, procedures rushed under pressure. The Cold War is beginning. Germany is no longer only a defeated enemy. It is becoming a strategic concern. Political gravity shifts, and with it, the handling of the case. Reviews are ordered. Testimonies are re-examined. Sentences across the trial group are reduced. Piper's death sentence is commuted to life imprisonment, then reduced again. Years pass behind bars. The battlefield feels far away now, replaced by concrete walls and routine counts. Outside prison, the Ardennes offensive is studied and restudied. Historians trace arrows across maps. They measure kilometers gained, bridges destroyed, hours lost. Again and again, the same conclusion emerges. The plan failed not because of one man, but because it demanded perfection in a war already lost. Too little fuel, too few roads, too much resistance. A gamble built on hope instead of logistics. Piper is released in 1956. After 11 years, he returns to a Germany changed beyond recognition. Cities rebuilt, uniforms gone, the Reich reduced to memory and ruin. He keeps a low profile, works civilian jobs, avoids publicity. But the past does not loosen its grip. Survivors remember names. Families remember places. Normandy does not fade. Threats arrive by letter. his address circulates. The war, though finished on paper, continues in fragments of hatred and unresolved guilt. Piper moves, then moves again, finally settling in the French village of Treves under an assumed quiet. For decades he is a figure argued over in books and courts, a capable commander, a criminal, a symbol of an army that tried one last time to change the course of history through speed and violence. None of the debates alter the facts on the ground in December 1944. Bridges blown, fuel gone, men lost in snow. On the night of July 13, 1976, fire breaks out at his house. By morning, the building is burned out. Inside, firefighters find Joachim Piper dead, killed by smoke and carbon monoxide. No one is charged. The case remains unresolved. Another ending without clarity. Yet, even this does not close the story, because the plan, Hitler's final offensive, still invites the same question, not whether it was justified, not whether it was moral, but whether for a brief and dangerous moment it truly came close to working. And how thin the margin was between collapse and catastrophe. The Ardennes remains silent now, but the gamble made there still casts its shadow unfinished, disputed, and never entirely laid to rest. The question lingers because the evidence is uncomfortably close. In the first days of the offensive, Allied intelligence is confused. Roads are thinly held. Weather grounds aircraft. American fuel dumps lie exposed, barely guarded. For 72 hours, the Western Front bends instead of breaking, and that alone is extraordinary. Piper's advance shows what the plan depends on. When bridges fall intact, minutes matter. When fuel is captured, columns live. When resistance hesitates, speed multiplies power. In several places, the Americans are hours, sometimes minutes, from catastrophe. At Stavelot, at Trois Ponts, along the Meuse timetable penciled into German orders. But war does not reward plans that demand perfection. One blown bridge forces a detour. One traffic jam stalls armor. One stubborn roadblock costs fuel that does not exist to replace. Logistics tighten like a vice. The deeper the spearhead drives, the more fragile it becomes. Piper does not fail because he slows. He fails because the world refuses to move at the speed the plan requires. By late December, the Ardennes Bulge is shrinking. Allied air power dominates the sky. American artillery pounds every known crossing. German fuel shortages turn from crisis to collapse. The offensive dies not with a final battle, but with stalled engines and empty tanks. Hitler's last gamble consumes what remains of Germany's mobile reserve. In the West, when the Allies resumed their advance in early 1945, there is nothing left to stop them. The Rhine will be crossed. The war will end within months. Maps drawn after the fact show how close the arrows come. Lines stopping short of rivers. Pockets forming where breakthroughs almost meet. It is tempting to believe history could have tilted the other way. But proximity is not success. The Ardennes offensive is remembered not because it nearly won the war, but because it exposed its final illusion that courage and speed could replace fuel, air superiority, and time. It reveals how a modern war ends, not in dramatic collapse, but in systems failing quietly and completely. Piper becomes the symbol of that illusion. A commander ordered to move faster than reality allows. A formation pushed beyond resupply, beyond support, beyond recovery. His route through the Ardennes marks the high water line of German hope in the West. Today the forests are calm, roads are widened, bridges rebuilt, villages repaired. Tourists walk paths once frozen under fire. The silence gives no hint of how much rested on those hours in December 1944, but the plan remains a warning written in snow and steel. Not that it was bold, not that it was cruel, but that it almost worked only if everything else had failed at the same time. And in war, that is never enough.